Tapinda pakano iwanya broadcast nini sangwa zispiwe kachinza mapfumo. I would like to welcome you back. We have had a couple of weeks where we didn't come out because we were having some challenges with our platform, but we are back now and I'm glad to see you. I see some people following us. Tarisai, Tapinda Sangwa Dzimoroi from the UK. Hello. Michelle Mchetu, I'm not sure where you're calling, I think from Canada. Tell us where you're following us from. And call your friends and, let them join. Today we have a beautiful and most very important topic that we have, and we invited our very good friend, Roseline Zigomo, who is a divorce lawyer, and she'll be here to discuss with us. So let's wait a little bit and have a few more people join us and let us know where you're following us from as we... before we just get started. Yes. Come in. I see there are like seven people following us, 8 people, 10 people. Oh my goodness. Following Michelle, following from Edmonton, Canada. Welcome. Invite other people who are not, who haven't joined us to say, hey, come and join us. Natasha, hi. Tapinda, Harare, Zimbabwe. Welcome, Natasha. Invite more of your friends so that you can follow us today. And this very, very important topic that we're going to be talking about. Now, today's guest is, as I said, is Roseline Zigomo. We invited her earlier on to talk to us about the different marriages in Zimbabwe. And today, we are looking at a very, very important thing, the New Marriages Act 5.15, right? Which was passed in Zimbabwe. Yes. We'd like to start by Rose, go in and welcome our followers and tell us who you are, your law firm, and just a little bit about yourself before we get into this whole thing.
Thank you, Auntie Spiwe. My name is Roseline Zigomo. I am a lawyer in private practice, a senior partner in the law firm that I work for, and I've been in practice for over 20 years, and I enjoy it greatly. But I've also had experience in government and in the non-governmental organization sector. So I enjoy the law, and I'm very glad to be here on your program again, discussing issues of family law.
Yes, it's very, very important. Thank you, Rosie. And we welcome you once again. And as I said, we've got quite a few people who are following us. We invited you to unpack this new law. What does it mean? And to the average person, marriages as if we've known them before is just an agreement between two partners to get married and start a family, accumulate wealth, raise children. And in the when one is deceased, one partner is deceased, the other one will carry forward and raise their families. That's how we have traditionally known marriages. But a lot has evolved. And last time when we invited you, you talked about the different marriages in Zimbabwe, the traditional marriages, which was once upon a time chapter 37, which has now changed to chapter
511, which is now 515.
515. So all this it's evolved. A lot of things have happened. A lot of changes have happened, and obviously we might not be understand what that means. And I think it's important that we discuss this issue. We invite somebody who is knowledgeable. What does that mean? And we've invited you today so that you can you unpack it the way analyze it and explain it to us. We are the ordinary people. The law is for us. But go in and tell us what this is all about.
Okay, so the first thing I want the viewers to understand is that the Marriages Act, the New Marriages Act, Chapter 515, is merely a reorganization or in fact, a better word would be a consolidation of the marriage laws in Zimbabwe. It's an attempt at consolidating the marriage laws in Zimbabwe. And the last time when we talked, I made reference to the fact that Zimbabwe follows a dual system of laws, in the sense that we have our general law or civil law, that is as a result of colonialization, the laws being made statutes, the common law and the statutes coming together under one body of laws, which we call the general law. And then customary law, which is the law of our fathers and forefathers, that has really been more to do with what is verbal, what is said. Those customary rights, the laws as is understood in our tradition and culture. So these two then mean that each time a Zimbabwean Black person gets married or dies, there are two systems of laws which then would apply to them. And marriage is one of those issues that come into play, where a Black person can either be married under the general civil law or under the customary law. And that's why there are, or there were, prior to this New Marriages Act, three types of marriages. The first one being the civil marriage, which is the monogamous marriage between a man and a woman, and where no other wives are permitted. Then the second one, which was the registered customary law marriage, where people conduct their marriage ceremony according to customary rights, and they go and they get a certificate of marriage from the magistrate, or it used to be, I think, the community officer. Then what was also happening in Zimbabwe is that people were neither going to these two routes, but they were paying rora for each other or part rora for each other, and then beginning to live together in what was then called an unregistered customary law union. But it was not considered a marriage in the full sense of the word, because it was neither registered nor solemnized. So these three then are what this new marriage law has brought together under one umbrella. Plus also, this new marriage law has also articulated another two sets of issues that were happening in this country. The one which we'll go into in great detail, and I think which has really been the reason why this new marriage law has been considered to be the devil incarnate. The civil partnerships, which some may loosely call small house, kubika mapoto, or what have you. And then this other thing which they're calling the qualified civil marriages, which are marriages that are brought together by religious rites, by some sort of a religious custom. So we can take Mapostori, or we can take even Muslim, but which is different in the sense from a civil marriage, where you go to church in a Christian setup. A qualified civil marriage entertains more than one wife, so it is potentially polygamous. So now we've got these five, if you like,
setups,
5 situations. Yeah, let's call them 5 situations, because one of them may or may not be a marriage depending on registration. So what the new act has done is it has taken these 5 situations and tried to bring some sort of clarity and order to these situations, particularly in relation to divorce. And we will go into that in greater detail. So one, the purpose of the act is to consolidate laws relating to marriages. And then another really big purpose of this act, which, was in the papers and, was discussed at length because we know the horror stories that were going on. It has also raised the legal age of marriage for boys and girls to 18. Nobody below 18 can get married, and it has also brought into high relief the issue of consent to marriage. So nobody can be forced into a marriage that they are not in agreement with. So essentially, I think those are the highlights of the new act, plus also the issue of bringing equality to the different types of marriages and equality of the parties that enter into the marriage. So essentially, that's what this act is about.
Okay, because all week long I've been advertising this, we're getting Roseline Zigomo to come and talk to us about the New Marriages Act. Some of the sentiments I've been getting from mainly from married women who the traditional marriage, they got married in court and they got married in church, and they've been in a relationship as we know it in a marriage relationship. They've accumulated wealth with their husbands and then enter small house. I think it's a phenomenon which has like blossomed the past maybe 15, 20 years. It's just when it started, it was always there. So am I right to assume that this new law then is trying to bring all parties or considering situations of all parties and maybe bring some fairness to everybody who is in some form of marriage in Zimbabwe? Could I be right?
That would be correct. That would be correct. And I think before you go further, Auntie Spiwe, the issue and one of the complaints that I'm hearing about this act is that it's legalizing small houses. Yes. It's allowing this somewhat untenable situation to now be clothed with some form of I wouldn't say morality, but decency or whatever. But essentially, the act does not outlaw for the monogamous civil marriage. The act does not outlaw adultery damages that can be claimed against a person who is having a relationship with one's lawful spouse under the civil marriage. It also does not mean that a person who is married to somebody legally under the civil law or even under the customary law and then goes on to contract another marriage with somebody else where that marriage, it does not permit polygamy, that person can still be sued for bigamy under the criminal law. So people need to be quite they need to look at the act in terms of the evil that it's trying to address and not ascribe to it what it is not doing. So it is not legalizing small houses, but it is trying to deal with an evil related to small houses that we can get into.
Ngatimbozviite breakdown muchivanhu zvatataura izvi, right? Kuti mutemo uri kuuya uyu hauzi kuita glorify small houses, uri kuda kutrya kuita bring some fairness kune all kinds of unions here, including maiguru vakaroorwa kuchechi nemuchato namainini vakanobhadharirwa pfuma kana kutsvakirai pano vakagoitawo vana vane zita rimwe chete rakafanana nerababa wavo, and kana any other union kuwirirana kana ari mapoto asi munhu akaenda kunobhadhara mari ikoko, it's some form of union, right? Try to put it muchivanhu chedu so that tinyatsobatikana nenyaya iyi ngekuti it's a very important topic inotacha kune vanhu vakawanda, and sometimes when we explain it in English and putting like some legal jargon, we might miss something there. Imbotry kuzviita breakdown muchivanhu tinzwisise.
Okay, saka mutemo uyu hausi kupatsanusa marriages. It's hausi kuunza zvisingabvumidzwi mumarriages emuno muZimbabwe. Hausi kuti izvi zviri correct and proper according to our law. Aiwa, hazvisi kudaro. Zviri kunzi chete tiri kuda kuedza kubatsira vanhu vari mumaunion akasiyana-siyana muno muZimbabwe. Vamwe vakaenda kumacourts, vamwe havana kuenda kumacourts, vakanotaurirana nasabhuku nemachief avo, vakadii, vakataurira nemhuri dzavo kuti uyu nauyu vaine marriage together. Vari kuti ivo vanhu ava vauya patable vachiti tiri murume nemukadzi, isusu tine marights nemaobligations, zvinhu zvatinobvumidzwa nemutemo, zvinhu zvatinonzi isusu tiite nemutemo, zvatinofanirwa kunge tichiongorora, tichikwanisa kuti kana pasisina relationship iyi, inini ndinokwanisa kubuda mumba umu ndakabata zvandakabata. Ndo chete zviri kuda kubatsirwa nemutemo uyu. It's trying to help people come out of their marriages with something. I'm hoping it's clear. I'm sorry that I may not be as clear as I could be, but I'm hoping kuti as we are discussing tichipa examples zvichanyasobuda.
I'm hoping so too, and vari kutiteera munogona kubvunza mibvunzo up comments and ask my specific questions so that we can present them kuna Rose achinyatsosanangura kuti situation yakamira yakadai, for instance case yakadai sekutaura kwandaita newe earlier on, we need to understand that everybody has a right. Mutemo unotipa tese a right to argue your case or present your case, whether uri vakachata muchechi vakachatiswa nabishop or vakangonobhadharirwa pfuma, zvese izvo. Let's just look at it that way, tisingaite judgmental, because a lot of times tinosvika pasituation where we said ivo masmall houses. As I said, mitemo inoita evolve, and this is where we are. And small house, without judging small house, anogona kunge atova nevana 4 ari musituation iyo for 10-15 years. Baba vanobhadhara mukaka nechikafu pamba, ndibaba wekumba kwako iwewe wakachata mutato wemuchechi. Saka tikata move away from judging that way kuti I'm a small house. They advocated for themselves and pushed for it kuti mutemo inofanira kuchinjwa so that we can, it's fair kuna everybody, including small house. Kana anyone, whether ari kubika mapoto or has been staying with someone, pasina any documentation kuti vanawe is a union. Is that right?
That is correct. Saka mutemo uri kungoti chete munhu ngaaprotectwe nemutemo pane zvaangaisa muunion. Kana yabreka union iyoyo hanzi chingoenda nemabhegi ako. So I'll give you an example. Under our customary law, kana waita a marriage paya apana certificate yawapiwa, wabhadharirwa rora handiti, tapa time yedivorce. Kudivorce zvinonzi which law applies in the distribution of property. Kana une unregistered customary law union where apana certificate yawakapiwa handitika, iwewe ungori munhu zvake akapinda into a marriage naJohn akakubhadharira rora, muri kugara mese, muri kutenga mafriji, mastove, imba, muri kutoita mabusiness together. Pamunoita breakup, iwewe under customary law yedu mukadzi unonzi unotora Maoko property, let's put it that way. Maoko property. What is maoko property? Zvidziyo zvawakaunza, zvidziyo zvawakatenga. Now that would be, in the case of our mothers, maybe they're cooking pots. It may not necessarily elevate to the lounge suites and things like that. Maybe in our generation, it's now the lounge suites and the stoves and the what. But you might have problems with the land and the beasts and so on and so, and the business. Ipapo law zvayaitika yaiti iwewe une that unregistered customary law union, chienda manje kupi kucourt konoita sei konopiwa zvinhu zvawakashanda. Waenda kucourt paya haungotangi uchiti ndanga ndiri murelationship iyi yazopera saka ndaakuda zvinhu zvangu izvi. Unotombotanga waita pass my hurdles, and those hurdles were many. You would have to prove firstly kuti you had a marriage. Saka now you have to go and call anabamunini anani kuti uyai muite testify, because if the husband says no, we were not in a marriage, I never married you, now you have to bring people to court to explain your situation, to say yes, you were married. And then once you proved that Rora was paid, and remember panika discussion katakaita last time kekuti, what is Rora? Is it Chakai Kuno? Is it Rusambo? Is it something more or something less? Yeah. After you've gotten through that legal quagmire, Wanzi, okay, have you then followed the customary rights to divorce? Then I'll give you an example of a client of mine. Akawe achiti, murume wangu ari kuramba kundipa gupuro. Saka kana aramba kundipa gupuro, what do I do? How do I go and prove to the court that I have been divorced according to customary rights? Digati, why don't you go to your chief and all of that? And she was explaining how it was very difficult, etc., etc. Once they pass through that and are able to tick those boxes, now they can come into, oh, this is the property that we acquired together, and so on and so forth and so forth. What this law is saying is that iwewe uri under an unregistered customary law union, kana wakaita union yako last month, you've got 12 months. Last month would be August, Anditika. This law came into operation on 27 May. That date is important. Any person who got married after the 27th of May, 2022, has got 3 months to go and register that union. Anditika. Kana wa register. Unoenda ku register of marriages, wono register that union. Kuti ini ndakarorwa musakati onai mapepa angu chichichi waitwa wotopiwa ka certificate of registration. On divorce,
any union, are we saying any kind of union of any sort?
Any
now?
union is registered and or solemnized. Okay, that's why I went into detail about civil marriage, customary law, registered marriage, civil partnership, qualified civil marriage, and itika. Civil partnership is not necessarily, it's not registered. Saka, that one falls out. But
what is that? What does that mean?
Marriage. A civil marriage.
What does that mean?
According a civil partnership. Okay, maybe Gatimbotangata definer the two. A civil, a qualified civil marriage is a union. So a qualified civil marriage is that union between two people, which is solemnized by a marriage officer. So within your religious rights, whether ameno wamunoti Indiana pastor wenyu are not according to our church, imimi maita get married. Tanzwanana kuti you are now married. But this marriage allows for polygamy. Saka, it's not really your normal, I don't want to say normal, that may not be the right word, but it's not the usual Christian
way. Yes, but I wanted to ask something on that very same topic. I do know that when we talked about my different marriages in Zimbabwe, Kanawayenda, now you're going to this faith group of yours, and you tell them you want to get married, right? Do they look into is any of you married to somebody else? Because this could be my husband of 20, 25 years who I've been married to. What is that going to look like?
Okay, the only type of marriage where they would be entitled to do that would be the civil marriage, which was formerly 37, chapter 37, then became chapter 511, and which is now under chapter 515. Because that one is specific. It says no to more than one wife.
Yeah.
All other marriages are potentially polygamous. So the customary law marriage that is solemnized by a chief is potentially polygamous. There's no way a chief is going to say, are you already married? However, those marriages cannot say, I guess in that particular instance, maybe let me qualify that last statement. If you are married under a civil marriage, and then you decide to go and conduct a customary law marriage with somebody else, that would be considered bigamy. That would be unlawful.
Sakamanje, say, how is this going to work out? How then do you know what you're getting into?
That's a good thing about this act, because what it has done by consolidating the laws relating to marriages, it's brought under one roof what they are calling a registrar of marriages. That registrar of marriages keeps a book. In fact, he keeps two books. One book which registers my civil marriages, and one book that registers my qualified marriages. And in those books are the customary registrations also. So anyone who gets married under civil law, customary law, qualified civil marriage, customary law union that then becomes registered, now comes under one registry. So it's very easy now. It should be easy, particularly if they're computerized, for you to do a bit of homework on your own spouse to see is he married to somebody else. And if he's married to somebody else, it should pick up.
There's a question here. What if the partner in the union refuses to register the marriage?
That's a very good question. That's a very good question.
Yeah.
Because the act does say that the parties, it doesn't say a party, it says the parties must register the union. And we discussed it earlier on, Anticipiwe Kuti. Can you just go there and say, my papers? Yeah. And technically, I don't think so. But this is now where some of the draftsmanship of this act may be called into question. And it's probably going to arise that a test case may come up where a person goes, Inini, I got married, Muswakat, let me go to the register of marriages because my husband is refusing or just doesn't have the time, and let me register my own marriage. I'm still to see how that will pan out. But the act does specifically say the parties, to the union must go and register. So we'll see as we go.
I'll give you an example. Somebody saw advertising that this is what we'll be talking about, the new law in Zimbabwe. And she sent me a message and she said, look, I decide small house. She's a small house and she's been a small house to this guy for over 30 years. But then she said, this guy has a wife. Yeah. They've been married for over 42 years. And the wife has got 5 children, right, with him. But she met him, and he went and paid lobola to her
Mm-hmm.
parents. And her child with this man is nearly 30 years old, right? And the first wife, he said, my guru, yeah, with her children, and she
Mm-hmm.
stays with the husband, and I see him as and when, when I need anything is provided for me in the past 30 years. But my guru also, vakangobhadharirwa upfuma, havana kuroorwa,
Mm-hmm.
like as you call it, a marriage. That's just as far as it goes. So me and her, Saka, does it mean we are on the same level? If this guy dies, what's going to happen
Mm-hmm.
to me and my guru? Because neither one of us, well, both of us are in the same boat. How does
Okay.
that? How
So,
does that?
so she may be able to claim under the civil partnership. And we didn't define that. What is a civil partnership? A civil partnership is being referred to in, I think it's section 41 of the Act. It's being referred to as a relationship or a union between two people where the the one of the parties may be married to somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
but these two who are in a relationship are conducting a genuine domestic partnership. So it can be looked at as a marriage. And if it is, so let me emphasize one thing. A customary law union, which is unregistered, munhu akaenda akanotora akanobhadhara rora kumba kwamai wangu kwana baba wangu, but are married to somebody else, and probably under the civil law, that marriage cannot be registered because he is already married to somebody else under the civil law. But if he is married under the customary law, which allows potentially another wife, this person still has a problem with this act, because this act is saying, Kuti, you are not married to this person until that union becomes registered.
Okay,
Saka,
so
where do we
registration
go?
is key.
Yeah, registration is key. Registration is key on divorce, on separation. So this person kana vakudivorcana, vakuda kuseparata, anouya under civil partnership, section 41. There's a whole lot of things that they have to prove. Kuti, we were married, not married. Kuti, we were staying together as man and wife.
But they were not.
Almost, yes, we were not, but
Yeah.
we were conducting our relationship
Okay.
as though we were married. And consequently, under that, I am entitled to this, that, and the other. And we have to go into this aspect in these programs, and if we have time.
If we don't, we are coming back next week. As this is a lot to unpack in one day, and I
It is
know.
a lot.
Yeah, we have another. We still have half an hour to go, but
So let's do what we can
yeah,
in
let's
that
do
half
what we
hour.
can. And I know people have to digest this and come up with questions from the discussions which we have. We might not be able to address today. Then we're planning on having part 2 next Sunday. But let's just carry on with this, trying to define what this means, these different unions mean, and what it looks like in a divorce, and in case of someone a death, because that's another thing. Let's talk about this scenario, which
case study. Yeah.
Yes.
In the case of the in the case of the death of the partner in this union Yamataure, she's been together with this man for 30 years. He is already married to somebody else and has kids with that wife. And assuming it is a customary law marriage that he has conducted with the first wife, vane muchato wekwamujiti, and iye ane this unregistered customary law union, vanenge vari at par on death of the spouse. By par, I'm just meaning kuti she will be regarded as a second wife. And as long as ane vanhu vachamumirirawo musiwo kuti aiwa uyu angari womunhu wedu. The issue with this act, and I didn't finish saying this, is that parties are now required to go and register. And they register within 3 months if they got married after 27/5/2022. They've got a year to do it if they got married before 27 May. So within that time limit, if there is no registration, because maybe this guy just is not interested in getting
He's
registered.
not. That's what she's saying, yeah.
On his death, and because the act specifically says, Kuti, for the purposes, if the person refuses to go and
Register.
register, it does not affect the status of this marriage, where it relates to custody, guardianship, and succession of the children of the marriage.
Okay, from both parties, right?
Yeah, so I think I need to just clarify that, because I think I had indicated that she would be regarded as a wife in terms of, but it looks to me like the section 17 subsection 1 and subsection 3 are saying that the failure to register the union does not affect its status as a marriage, okay, or the rights of custody, guardianship. Sorry, so I was correct in the first instance. She would be regarded as a wife on death. Death.
And even though she never had a registered, both wives never had anything registered.
No, if his first wife never registered anything, they would both be on the same level. If the first wife registered a customary law marriage, customary, then still they are together as wives. But if he is married to this man, if this man is married to that first wife, under the civil law, she is nothing at death. She is not married to this woman, to this man. I hope Tanzwana Naipap. You cannot put another marriage on a civil marriage.
Okay.
You cannot put another marriage on a civil marriage. Kana vana vakaenda kucheck kana ku civil court, haubvumidzwe kuisa another marriage on top of this marriage. This act, what it's basically saying is that kana makuda kuzoseparatana and magamaisa something on top of this civil marriage, then tinouya kunokubatsirai manje. We can come to help this lady. I hope that's clear. Come to help her.
Yeah,
we're coming to help her so that she does not walk away empty-handed for 30 years that she has been laboring in this union.
Saka, her rights. Anzi, I think that's the same question you said. Can you register a white wedding chapter directly at the court without a white wedding ceremony?
Oh yes, yeah, that happens all the time. That happens all the time. Yeah. So the act of solemnization is that process of doing the kind of like the ceremony.
Yes.
But because at the court, at the courts, there's still a procedure that has to happen by the marriage officer, who is a magistrate, where they ask certain questions and they allow you to say certain vows and give you a certificate. So yes, that is very possible.
So magistrates now can actually give a side small house a certificate if she comes with the husband or the man in the partnership and say, we want to register this. Can they do that?
No. I think let's define a small house, because there are two types of small houses. Not a small house in a civil marriage, technically is not a small house. That's just a mistress.
Yes. But then what is a mistress? What is a mistress?
That's a woman that you're having an adulterous relationship with. Whereas under customary law, it's not considered adultery. That's considered mainini.
Mm-hmm.
Ari kutopihwa a title of relationship. Mainini. It's just that
With the potential of solemnizing this thing. Akaenda nemurume wacho iyaye akanoregister. Because
because the first marriage allows, it's saying it's potentially polygamous. Yeah. So, a man who conducts a customary law marriage, kwamjit, ane certificate yake, he has basically said to the world, I am married to this woman, but I am able to take other wives, so they can go and get
So,
other wives.
Rose,
And
how
that's
can you indemnify yourself then? That's my oita say, to make sure that you are getting into a relationship where you are protected. What does one need to do? Because as it is, it's quite loosely defined. It's almost like, yeah, you could do this. You could get a certificate with you, and cannot wait
no.
and
There's no certification. Okay, there is when we're talking about how can women protect themselves, let's be clear which women we're talking about. Inini
the
kana
first wife.
ndakaenda nemurume wangu
Mhm.
kwamjiti kunopiwa muchato,
Chat.
handiti ndatoagree here kuti murume wangu can have more wives. So what protection am I talking about? I have permitted this. I have said I'm okay with this. So when mainini comes into barika, how can I be heard to protest? I agreed to it. And it's the issue, ava who are under a civil marriage. Now you have to live with a mainini. There, of course, now that requires the woman to be more discerning in the type of man that they are marrying, and where you must have the same values, the same beliefs, so that this man is not coming and having a civil partnership under your nose, and having children under this partnership, where they are doing business together and they're acquiring property together. Kana murima atoshika ipapo, and you are permitting it. Iwewe, even under adultery damages, you can even struggle to win a case there.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
They can say, Kuti, you are allowing this. Some people will be in these civil partnerships for years, will have many children, and they're known to the first wife, and the wife has pretty much condoned and forgiven this strain, this adultery, and it's
maybe not agreed, but she's just resigned to the situation. You know what?
But it is considered condoning. It is considered condoning. So, and as we said before, Auntie Spiwe, you as a person decide what you can live with and what you cannot live with. If this is something you cannot live with, then by all means do something whilst you still can. Whether it's go to court and file an adultery damages claim, which may scare off the other women. But I think I actually told you once before of a case where the husband was paying the bills for the small house in an adultery damages, the legal bills, So you must make a decision where you are. Is this something I can condone? Is this something I cannot condone? I can't live with it. In which case, then you must go for divorce. And what this law is saying is that if you then go for divorce, you can actually then say, Kuti, idzo imba dzamuri kugara, they are coming from my seat as the wife. I'm the one who is doing this. That is allowing you, iwe murume wangu, kuti unotenga imba for Susan, unotenga holiday for Jane. So this act is basically saying we will also protect the first wife in that particular instance and claw back some of those properties. But Susan, Jane, Navimbai can also then go to court using this act and say, inini murume uyu takatenga imba tese, this name is in his name definitely, but ndini ndiri kubhadhara mamortgage, ndini ndiri kutenga magroceries. So in that particular instance, this wife can't have it and he can't just separate from it. And we've heard of cases where the man who is married is expecting the small house to be faithful, and when they find them in another relationship, they go chibudamba mangu, chindipa zvese zvandakakutengera.
But she can
these women are,
can she refuse?
By this act, by this act she can say no. We were in a civil partnership. And all of these were done in furtherance of that partnership. So there's quite a host of things that they would have to show the court. Kuti, we were in this relationship. He would come to my apartment, every lunchtime, 5 days a week. And the court may say, yeah, you're right. It was a civil partnership. You're entitled to get some property. Or the woman may say, he only came for 30 minutes a week. He would see me for 30 minutes a week, and they may decide that. It's up to the court. It's going to be based on whatever the circumstance or the case, the facts are shown to the court. So it's going to be tested in the courts. And already we know the courts have been looking at some of these cases.
You know what keeps coming to my mind? Way back when I was growing up, muchato meant a lot. Kunzi ane muchato kana dai kune mukadzi asina kuita anything, asina kana any education or whatever, angororwa aipiwa muchato kunzi ndiye anogara muchato kana dzimba dzekuhaifirizi dziya dziya. They would ask the woman, the married wife, to bring muchato. Kwainzi kwakatsekera. Katsekera would protect this woman kuti is your married wife because ane muchato. But now it really didn't leave too much room for these second wives, third wives. Kanari second wife usual anenge ari kumusha. But now in the city, I suppose that's why we're saying the law is evolving, because there are too many other scenarios which are coming up here. There are arrangements where another woman anozvisenzerawo, but anoziva kuti murume ane mukadzi wake, but hey, I've got children with you, somebody is going to pay the bills, right? And all that kind. So all these things are now, I guess, integrated in this new law, which brings in whoever is involved in these partnerships, the different kind of partnerships, the unions that are there.
That's correct, Auntie Spiwe, because there is a law which is called the Matrimonial Causes Act. That law was reserved for the two top tier marriages, the civil marriage that is registered and the customary law marriage that is registered. And those two marriages, on divorce, the property rights of the parties were determined according to that law. And that law, in the previous program where I spoke about divorce, there's a section 7 within that law that would deal with, that was a guideline almost for the judges, how they would then look at how do we decide who gets what on divorce. And essentially, the Supreme Court basically said what we are seeking to achieve is equity in a divorce. We're wanting to place these parties in the same position they would have been in had the marriage continued. And we all know that divorce impoverishes people. I've said this again and again. Whereas before you were two people putting your assets together and your work ethics, your labor together to acquire property, now you are divorcing and you are dividing that. There's going to be a lessening of what you were worth before. So what this act was trying to do was to say, you, Rose, when you got married, you were not working. We understand that. But you were the wife that was seen at all the family occasions. You were the one that was looking after the kids, helping them with their homework, supervising the maids, if you have them, doing the housework, having sexual relations with the man. All of that contributed to your entitlement and right to a certain percentage of the assets. And the man could also use that same law. If for example they were not earning as much as the wife, or they were a house husband or whatever. But essentially it was there, it is there to assist these two divorcing parties. What then happened is that the customary law union, who was unregistered, had to fend for themselves under some obscure contract law and so on, and try and argue unjust enrichment. You're going away with property that you didn't work for, or what have you. It didn't necessarily look at my indirect contributions. It
That's
was
right.
very cutthroat. Yeah, it was very cutthroat, very much, okay, in dollars and cents, what did you do? Let's see your receipts. Let's do, then it didn't take into account our very qualified civil marriages. Vakano, maybe Mapostori, maybe it's the sixth wife who no longer is wanting to stay in this marriage, but she was working hard in the family butchery and all of that. These people were kind of left almost sort of hanging. And then, of course, the civil partnerships, the people that were not actually married. So essentially, the Matrimonial Causes Act has now been said, yeah, now we cover all these people except for
Yes.
our Warimu civil partnership.
Rose, you have to come back next week.
Oh, sorry, my bad. Sorry, not Varimu
No,
civil partnership, except Varimu customary law union, which is unregistered. Sorry, my
okay.
bad.
Time goes so fast. Tasarane like exactly 8 minutes, and I know there is a lot of people. 24 people are watching us, and 15 people like yes, yes, yes. And I have all these people comments because there's a lot to digest here. There's a lot to digest. Munhu ari kuwatch, I'm sure when we're done with this, they'll go home and go back to YouTube and listen to all these things, because then kana une something chiri kukupisa mwoyo mauti saka apa pataurwa apa naRose Zigomo, what does it mean? Kana kuti situation yangu yakamira yakadi, what does it mean? Kune vamwe vari musituation where they've lived with somebody for pasina kana any papers or anything whatsoever for about 25 years. And really, for all intents and purposes, mukadzi wako, because that's a long time to be living with somebody. And I know last time we asked about that and said, well, usually kana pane will yasiwa kana watosirwa something, but otherwise one is not entitled to anything. But this law has changed the face of things, because you can. I would like to think you can argue your case.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah. So it's a lot to unpack, and we right at the top of the hour, and vanhu vari kuchiteera mazvinzwawo muri kuramba makanyararwa, muri kuti pakaipa, so informative. We are kutotanzwanana, mumwe achiti so informative. A lot of people are so informative, but I think there are still quite a lot of things. Even for me, I've asked some questions to sort of lead the conversation. I need to go and revisit this and watch it again and say, saka ipapa, what does this say? Civil courts dzinotaura kuti chi ari kuti chi. You know what, I need to go back and relook at this, and I promise you, as you can see, we're back pakano iwanyai, and maybe we'll get even more people. And anyway, we are muzvinzwirewo zviri kuno, pane nyaya iri kuno. Sharon, I may have missed the lot about small houses. What is the position? Sharon, my friend, come back next week. I'm going to send you this segment, utarise, and I would like for you to come, because you were on a podcast yako tinoda kushare some of these things, but nyaya yacho nyaya yekuti tiite look at small houses as like those small houses. Now everybody has a right, and it's very, very important does that we all look at this new law kuti inorewe kuna each and every one of us without being judgmental, because everybody has a right to this law. So
That's
on
true.
that note, I don't know if you have something to say to Kukutu Bongota around today's program, and then promise us what you'll be talking about next week.
Okay. So this new Marriage Act, just in a nutshell, is providing for the equitable dissolution of marriages or unions that have been solemnized and or registered in Zimbabwe. And essentially, it is moving for people in my unions avo kuti vaende vanoitwa registered under the marriage registrar or marriage registry, so that there is I guess, a database of all the marriages in Zimbabwe. Saka kana unewo marriage yako yawakaita with somebody and you don't have a certificate or anything, it's important for you and your partner to go and register. Kwa marriage bureau, ku marriage registry, I think itori pa where the old passports were.
Yes.
There's an office kind of behind. There are offices behind there. That's where the marriage registry, unless they're moving it now, because it's now going to have, it's going to have more marriages basically to register. So this new act is something for people not to be afraid of, but to engage with.
Okay. I think next week you would like to start with Sharon's question, because I think she missed out kuti
All right.
the lot about small house kuti vitsanangure kuti what it means. But Zorore, I wonder, does it mean Mary C ava nemukana mukadzi wachef pari papa?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I am vanga muunion iyo for quite a while, saka ndozvimwe zvezvinhu zvatichataura next week kuti tione different scenarios, different situation, kuti what does that mean and what does it look like going forward, right? Thank you so much, Rosalie, and thank you so much to all of you who have followed us today. This is very topical, and it's important to everybody to understand this, so that tisafambe on air uziwe kuti wakamira papi, and whether uri first wife, second wife, third wife, or une some union with somebody, you need to know that. Thank you so much, Rosie, and thank you so much for everybody. I'll see you next Sunday on this Kanoi Wanyai again, same time. And please bring some more friends and share and subscribe to our channel, and so that tona takawanda and going forward. Thank you so much, Rose. Muwanizwa rakanaka, morara zvakanaka vari kuZimbabwe, South Africa, neku UK, vari kuno Canada. Have a lovely day. Thank you.